I'm Markku Wilenius, and I'm gonna talk to you about how Dubai became a city of the future. I have just finished a 2-year intensive work in Dubai, where I learned a lot of how incredible shift happened in Dubai, where it came basically from the Pearl Village into a modern multimillion city of this world. The whole story sort of began with the fact that indeed 100 years ago, the small Dubai of those days got its living mostly from the pearls. And that went on until the 1930s. But then something started to happen. Japanese invented the way how to produce artificial pearls. And with some other market constraints, Dubai came to understand, and the people there, that this was not a sustainable source of wealth for them. So ever since that, the leadership of the Dubai of those days started to look how they could improve this stability of the Dubai, and they saw that they could use the kind of old tradition of trading, and they started to invite people of the region to come there and build and establish their business and their life. And that's how this kind of Dubai as a trade hub started to emerge. Later in the 1950s, what happened was that oil was found on the region, and that of course started to give additional wealth for the countries around. But it was not until the 1971 when 7 Emirates decided to put they kind of stakes together and form a union which is called United Arab Emirates, when really speed of the development started to increase rapidly. Now, those days still, Dubai and that region has been under the spell of British and have not really been able to create themselves as a modern economy or as a modern society. There is, for instance, information to know that there were only something like a 24 person in that day in Dubai who had a higher education. So, but the leadership on those days started to look far beyond the normal horizon, not just looking for the chance to meet the immediate needs, but started to reach much further into the future. And with that came a couple of key ideas that have sort of built the way to what Dubai is today. First of all, there was the idea that Dubai tries to build, Dubai and United Arab Emirates, but particularly Dubai, start to build this kind of what they call Dubai Silk strategy, meaning that they would be more connected to the cities of not only the Middle East, but other parts of Central Asia, Northern Asia, Eurasia, those countries that were fairly close to them, but were also very underdeveloped. In addition to which, also the North Africa became an important region. And they started to build this kind of idea that what if Dubai would become a kind of a hotspot of the trade for this larger region that didn't have any center at that time. And fascinating thing is that over the years and the decades, this actually became true. They were able to actually to build this global trade hub with the results that today a lot of businesses come to Dubai, even if they are not building businesses there, but the connections there to other parts of the developing part of the world, whether it's in Africa or Asia or somewhere else, that they can do and build their businesses and build networks and connections by being in Dubai. The other way that they started to work on that was that they created a couple of harbors, particularly Jebel Ali port, which is now one of the largest ports in the world, but which was just an idea back in the 1970s. And to create this kind of a trade and commodities going through and by to Dubai, again building a Dubai as a hub. Then a little bit later, the early 80s, saw the first ideas that, well, let's build also this idea of a Dubai tourism. And there are some stories behind that when the Sheikh at that time came up with those ideas of Dubai, they were pretty much laughed at by their neighbors, who thought that who could come to the Dubai who only has sand and dry weather and not much more. And the idea on the Dubai side was that, well, we have something that many other parts of the world don't have, which is almost eternally shining sun. So we just need to build the infrastructure around, and then they will come. Which is exactly what happened, and which is why today, if you look at that, Dubai is one of the hotspots of the tourism of this world. Also, quite early on, when the new technology started to come around, internet was invented in the early 90s. Many other sort of digital technologies started to emerge. Dubai was very quick, actually, to start to make use of that new technology fronts, and they created a kind of a centers where these type of the firms could come, meet the others, and sort of start their business. That's why in Dubai you will find cities that is called the media city, internet city, and so forth and so forth. But that was already back in the 1990s, where they saw that this is a real chance. Maybe the other important aspect of this success story was that early on, Dubai sort of insisted that they focus on economics and not so much on the politics. So they put their trust and they focus their investments into the economics and left alone the politics, which in the past, as it is now, has played a major role why actually the countries of that region have never developed in a way that would have been expected given all the resources of the region. But they wanted to do it in a different way. They wanted to create a peace in the country, peace and tolerance, meeting different cultures there in a harmonious way. And by and large, they have been quite successful in doing that. So today, it is really a melting pot of the world, where you meet all cultures, or people from all parts of the world in a one single city, essentially, which is quite astonishing achievement by itself in the region, particularly, which has been riddled so much conflicts and stress. Now, the question comes that there has been a huge ambition built, which has kind of carried Dubai to what is it now? And the question arises, can they keep up this ambition towards the future? And I see some positive signs there. So in my work there, we were talking about a lot what should happen in Dubai in order that to be ready in the era where oil is not determining economic factor. It's not a source of wealth anymore for the region. Actually, in Dubai, it's never been that way because they have never had very much of the oil. But of course, UAE, particularly Abu Dhabi, has a lot, and many other countries nearby. But Dubai never have had it. That was also one of the reasons that they had to have a very different strategy, which was never built of the existence of the oil. But with the results that when you look at, for instance, what happened in many commercial sectors, such as a building sector, a lot of money that actually has come from the oil web has been put into this building sector, which has been flourished for the last 20 years at least. Now, the future is always different. So the future for Dubai also needs to be different. So Dubai is now searching their way how they can build more sort of a value-added economies, not just this a service sector, but really the high value-added manufacturing, for instance. Then the question about what comes actually after oil. And obviously the answer can be that there are different ways how we can use the sun energy in such a way that it's sustainable, it doesn't create any wastes, and we can sort of use it in a way that we use in kind of electricity in our infrastructures and life today. Which means that if Dubai wants to continue to go onto this ambitious path, they also need to reinvent themselves as we move forward, as they have done in the past. And that is probably the trickiest question, because the country which is as wealthy as Dubai is today easily finds itself kind of being in a comfortable position, just more kind of defending itself rather than creating new ones. And yet I see that there is also this ambition of working on the new technologies, hydrogen technologies, working on the blockchain, how to kind of recreate the whole idea how security and financial sector works in the future, of 5G, artificial intelligence, all those things. But one idea has to be clear. If Dubai wants to be a city of the future in 20, 30 to 50 years, it also has to change its own energy infrastructure, which is clearly not very sustainable today. In the per capita emissions, the country is one of the highest in the world when it comes to the greenhouse gases. A lot of things has to be done, but there is a kind of awareness of this. How fast they can move forward, that's another question. But on the other hand, we see that they have quite impressive track record or reinventing themselves over the time, and perhaps we can think about that this type of ambition that has been built now into the modern culture could go on and also show what type of the country can be a country that doesn't come from the Western Hemisphere, has a very strong cultural root, and I would say a very strong moral code as well, but what needs to reinvent itself into this world and into the world tomorrow in such a way that it stands out from the others, it's pioneering, it's showing the way, and indeed it leads the other countries, particularly on that region, but maybe even more widely into the future. So that is my idea, how the past of the Dubai has shown what might happen in the future, but as always, it doesn't determine. Let's see. Anyway, the future of the Dubai is a hugely interesting endeavor.